What is up, everybody? Welcome to inside Acrisure Stadium right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the home of the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Buffalo Bills and the Steelers just wrapped up about an hour ago a joint practice, a ton to get into on the Matt Milano situation. This is Shout at Buffalo Bills Football Podcast live in a football stadium, which is our favorite kind. He's Ryan Talbot. I am Matt Parrino. What is up, my friend?
Hey, not too much. A lot of a pretty fun practice overall, Matt. You kind of keeping your eye on the offense. I'm down on the defensive side of the ball today, so a lot to get into.
We got to start off with Matt Milano. The news dropped earlier this afternoon, late morning, that he did indeed tear his bicep in practice on Tuesday. Sean McDermott revealed that it was just going up against a pad in practice, something that he's done thousands of times over the course of his career. He missed the pad a little bit and apparently hit the coach or staff member who was holding it, hit his leg, and that's what kind of sustained the injury. Out indefinitely. Adam Schefter is reporting that they're hoping that he can make his return by December. A lot to get into here, but I think the best place to start is just feeling for the guy, because this is a player who suffered a season-ending injury a year ago, made his way back all summer and all spring long. He stayed in Buffalo. He was working to make his way back. Now we get all the way here right before the start of the season, a couple weeks away, and he's not going to be a part of it.
Yeah, you absolutely feel for the player, Matt. This was a guy that spent the offseason working, rehabbing on getting back, and there was so much mystery surrounding that injury in terms of would he be ready to play at the start of the season or would he not, and he worked his way back to what we saw at training camp, where he got better each and every day, and he started looking like the Matt Milano of old. So for something like this to happen, you feel first and foremost for the player who eats, sleeps, and breathes football, and now this is going to be another season where he's going to miss the majority of the season, and now the Bills have a significant hole in their defense.
Yeah, and that's going to be the big question mark over the next 3 weeks. And this game, actually, it's going to be in the stadium in 2 days, takes on a completely different tone. It becomes a completely different experience for Bills fans and us in the media as we really zero in now on that linebacker competition. Dorian Williams, hearing from Sean McDermott 2 days ago, this is a guy that, listen, there's been growth there. He's going into his second season, but he also made sure to mention that there's a lot more work to do. This isn't an easy, clean fit of, okay, player A out, player B in. Dorian Williams is going to have to come out here over the next couple of weeks, earn this job.
Absolutely. And let me tell you today, Matt, good first step. Good first start for him, knowing that he is going to have to step up significantly. He was all over the field today. I had him down as my second place MVP for the defensive side of the ball, making countless plays. He had a nice run stop early on in 11-on-11s. He had a pass breakup that led to a small skirmish when he flexed on the Steelers' offensive line. He had a would-be or should have been interception, I should say, on a ball where he read Russell Wilson's eyes, jumped the route. It led to an incompletion nonetheless. And then during 7-on-7s, his closing speed was on display, Matt, where he jumped in front of the last possible target for Wilson, causing him to just kind of take off with the ball, which in a 7-on-7 is pretty much a dead play because you're not really scrambling there. So really nice practice from Dorian Williams. You saw flashes. You saw some big plays from him. They're going to need a lot of those this season, though. And
I mentioned this stuff, that Sean McDermott said the other day, but the important thing is to remember, Sean McDermott's always going to downplay things for rookies, right? Or second-year young players, rookies, second year, third year, no matter when it is. He kind of did that with Terrell Bernard as that kind of was playing out the competition with Tyrel Dotson last year. I think Dorian Williams is in a position, listen, he watched the blueprint last year with Terrell Bernard, right? Come in your second season. Remember back to Terrell Bernard, his one game that he played in as a rookie, it did not go well against the New York Jets. I remember being in that locker room. We talked about it on the show before. He rebounded. He learned everything he could that offseason. He applied it on the field. And here's another low-key benefit to the situation. Number one, what's the best way to improve to get better as a young player? Repetitions. Dorian Williams potentially going to get a lot of them. They're not closing the door on Matt Milano returning at some point this season. So you think about Micah Hyde and talking about maybe him for a stretch run. Just imagine what it'll be like if the Bills can stay in the playoff hunt. to add and inject a Matt Milano into this defense in December and January.
Yeah, that would be huge, Matt. But obviously, we have to wait and see how this whole rehab process goes. It would be a significant boost down the stretch. The Bills could get him if they're still in the playoff hunt, or if they can secure a playoff spot, and then maybe even have him rest up and get ready for the playoffs itself. So you hope that he can get back in time. You know how important he is to this defense. I think everyone wanted to see a full season of Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano. That will have to wait. But if they can get him back at all, either late in the season or for a playoff run, that will benefit the Bills greatly.
If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. We really appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel as well. The one thing I will say that's pretty cool about the Steelers Stadium, I love Pittsburgh. I love downtown Pittsburgh. It's really beautiful. We're going to spend a couple days here going to the Pittsburgh Pirates game tomorrow. So if there's any Shout Buffalo Bills insiders that are in the house, make sure you send us a message tomorrow during the Pirates game. We'll meet up for a beer or something. I think that'd be a fun little excursion.
That would be a great excursion. I know some people from Western New York making the trip this weekend and they're going to the Pirates game. So if you are an insider, let us know if you'll be there.
A lot to get into from this practice today. I want to start off with the two big offensive standouts. And I feel like going against, having a joint practice and getting into the mix here is about going up against guys that aren't your teammates, that you've been going at in training camp for the last 2 weeks, day in and day out. Being able to maybe throw some things at a defense that doesn't know what's coming at this point. And I noticed first and foremost, a really juiced up Joe Brady. Like he was, pacing the sidelines over there. Felt like he was, in the mix, because it's nice to go up against a team that A, doesn't know what you're doing, and B, you're really truly competing against. They're not your teammates. Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, both with absolutely tremendous performances today. I want to start with Shakir, who went, I think, 4 to 8 receptions, somewhere in that department, a couple of touchdowns. The one touchdown was absolutely beautiful. It reminds you of the Gabe Davis touchdowns over the years, the Steph Diggs touchdowns over the year. 40-yarder, right down the seam, 3 Steelers in the area. It did not matter. He made it all the way to the goal line, made the catch, got in untouched. It reminds you that the potential for this offense to be truly special with Josh Allen, it's still there. It's just all these pieces are going to have to come together.
Yeah, and that's just it. And you expect Joe Brady, maybe that's part of the game plan is, a divide and conquer. Some weeks it might be a Khalil Shakir show. Some weeks it'll be Dalton Kincaid. And other weeks it'll be a little mix of everyone. We've seen Khalil Shakir, though, this summer, Matt, take his game to another level. He ascended from year 1 to year 2. Now we're seeing that year 2 to year 3 ascension. He's going to factor in big time on this offense. He is, in my mind, their clear-cut number 1 wide receiver now. We had discussions about who it could be over the course of the summer. It's definitely Shakir in my eyes. He just is so good at getting open. If they're going against zone, he knows where to sit. He's improved his route running, working with Eric Moulds and training. So you see that against man too. Josh Allen just really trusts him. And then as for Kincaid is a guy that if you put the ball near him, he generally comes up with that and can make a lot of plays for this team.
Yeah, Kincaid, it was like over and over again. And I noticed that there was a level of frustration with amongst the Steelers back seven dealing with Kincaid, because play in and play out, he was an easy button for Josh Allen, as we've kind of come to expect him to be. But it's just the little things at all 3 levels. A short out route that he makes a play on, a nice, crossing pattern where he really has to put the defense, the linebacker, in a bind at that second and kind of approaching the 3rd level. And the hands, the reliability. I think he might have had a touchdown in this thing. I think he had 7 catches throughout the course of practice. He was so good that over the last 2 or 3 periods, he took his one shoe off and kind of was hanging out, getting a little treatment on the sideline. No worse for the wear. He walked off. He looked fine after practice. We got to get to the injury report in a second too. But just an absolute premier day for Dalton Kincaid.
And what's funny is we've talked recently, Matt, about how Joe Brady comes from the Sean Payton coaching tree. And early on in Sean Payton's tenure in New Orleans, the easy button for Drew Brees was Jimmy Graham. I think that Dalton Kincaid can be that easy button for Josh Allen, that guy that's going to get open, whether you're talking red zone, between the 20s, anywhere. His ascension, it has been off the charts this offseason. Clear-cut number 1 tight end on this team. A guy that I think, if you play fantasy football, he might be in there in the top 2, top 3 tight ends by the end of the season.
Thank you so much for watching. If you are watching on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. It helps us out. We really appreciate it. if you want to become an insider, Ryan, why don't you tell them a little bit how to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. You can dial 716-528-6727 to become a Shout Insider. And when you do that, you will be given a 2-week free trial, Matt, where you have all of insights from Matt, myself. So these preseason games, roster cutdown day coming up, and then throughout the season as well when we're covering practices, games, you name it. This is a year-round event, football that is. So subscribe after the 2-week free trial. It is just $3.99 a month after that. Well worth your money, Bills Mafia.
If you can't remember the text number, just punch in joinsubtext.com/shout Buffalo Bills. Put in your cell phone number. They'll take it from there. Again, the 2-week free trial, you can't beat it. The Shout text line is brought to you by Carrie C. Byer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Litro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give Carrie a call, 716-852-1234, or check out litrolaw.com. Defense.
Let's talk about my defensive MVP of the day, rookie Daquan Hardy, man.
That's high praise, man.
He was everywhere on the field today. He had at least 3 pass breakups. You could see the defensive sideline getting fired up every time that he made a play. He was just sticky in coverage today. Anytime it felt like where Justin Fields or Russell Wilson were throwing the ball, if he was in the vicinity, he was getting his hands on it. He was, breaking up plays, you name it. He was just standing out to me. And that's big because, about a week and a half ago, Sean McDermott talked about the fact that they drafted this guy for his return ability. And yes, he was a very good nickel cornerback in college, but that wasn't the main reason they drafted him. I feel like since that point, he's really taken off on the defensive side of the ball at training camp practices and then here today. So, I think, one, this solidifies his spot potentially as that backup nickel cornerback to Taron Johnson, where Cam Lewis can still play a role in that, could still have a say there. And
they're going to need him at safety, Ryan.
They're probably going to need him at safety, though. You are right, which we did see a little bit today, which we'll get to in a minute. But Hardy, with his return ability, with his ability to play in that nickel spot, really, really having himself a nice end to the summer.
One thing, Ryan, I'm still trying to work on. You don't frame yourself properly.
Oh, my bad.
What do you think? You got to move over like maybe an inch to the right. Oh, right there.
Right here.
Right. Like right here, maybe.
Okay.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Look at that. That is a beautiful man right there in green. I think we've heard a couple whistles today when you've been walking up and down the side. There's no fans, so maybe there was just a couple of birds.
Yeah, probably a couple of birds, and I'm surprised they didn't get dropped with anything when they were flying over.
That would have been a great story for right now. No, Daquan Hardy, I mean, I've been impressed with his versatility, number one. You're asking a rookie to spend a ton of time on special teams, which, of course, like most guys, like day 3 guys are going to be very heavily involved in special teams, but he's competing for a big role in special teams, and that is the kick return, punt return battle. Then you got a guy trying to learn the scheme, and I feel like he's been more confident day in and day out. It seems like every day it grows, and now you're talking about a guy that if you could count on him to move around a little bit, and you know how Sean McDermott is, he's never going to let a guy, even if it's a guy that you like at nickel corner, he's never going to put a guy in that box and keep him there. They're going to want to cross-train him. They're going to want to get him ready to play in multiple spots. If they trust him to do multiple things, that puts him in a good spot. And, it's probably a good time to transition to the safety situation because it is threat level midnight right now, Ryan, for the safety situation. Yeah. We saw Damar Hamlin. I walked down to you. He wasn't having a very good day. You can get into that in a minute. But I noticed his left, like oblique or hamstring, his upper leg area had a pretty sizable wrap on it. Now you're wondering if he's banged up, what do the Bills have at safety behind Taylor Rapp? Mike Edwards still isn't practicing. Cole Bishop still not practicing. It's Kareem Jackson, Terrell Burgess, Kendall Williamson. I mean, they are just a bunch of spare parts that they're trying to put together and make a room here.
It's really worrisome, Matt. And, you mentioned it. Damar Hamlin early on in the practice was not having some great reps in the one-on-ones. During the 11-on-11 work, there was a big run play by Najee Harris where he was able to get by Hamlin, spin him around, turn him around a little bit. Was not a great rep. And then shortly thereafter, you really didn't see him again other than on the sidelines. And you're right, there was a wrap around his one leg. And when the Bills came out in first-team reps after that, it was Cam Lewis out there with Taylor Rapp. So they are hurting in a big-time way when it comes to the safety position. We were talking pre-show. They're running out of options in free agency. Justin Simmons signing in Atlanta. So that pipe dream for some Bills fans is now out the window. You still have maybe Micah Hyde that you can call on. I don't know how viable or realistic that is, but these guys have been dropping like flies. And with the regular season just weeks away, it's very concerning because even if you get a Mike Edwards or Cole Bishop back and they can play in that game, they've missed so many weeks of reps. I don't know if you could truly expect them to come in and hold down the fort at that position because of the reps loss. This is a rookie in Cole Bishop. This is Mike Edwards, who's learning a new scheme in Buffalo, came over from Kansas City, was more of a backup there who came in and spot starts and did a nice job. It's asking a lot for either of them to step up early. And right now, depending on if Hamlin is injured and what the severity is, they're really getting tested in their numbers.
Yeah, and you look at Justin Simmons' deal, and it's $8 million for one season, 7.5 of that's guaranteed. That's not, I think, the stratosphere that the Bills were going to climb into to bring in a guy like that. And that's it. To even say if they would have been interested in the first place would have been, which I think, it has to be a scheme fit. It's got to be a player personnel fit. Like the fact that they were never linked to them probably made it a little bit more of a pipe dream to your point. But yeah, the safety position is, you're worried about that. You're worried about today, Kyer Elam spending a little time on the sideline, getting some oxygen. Now it's hot out here. So, maybe he was just, for whatever reason, not feeling well. We'll kind of see what his status is for Saturday and kind of follow that story. But you look across this roster on both sides of the ball, Ryan. Dawson Knox not practicing right now. I think it's a calf issue for him. Balin Spector, and actually, no, Balin Spector's the calf. Yeah. I don't know what the Dawson Knox thing is.
I believe it was groin and ankle. I have to look at that.
Yeah, bring up the notes. So that's multiple injuries now that Dawson Knox is dealing with. I would shut him down completely until you get to the regular season. But again, if this is going to be something groin, tends to be nagging. We talked about Daquan Jones, him getting back. This is something that I think is a little bit concerning and maybe opening the door, and we'll talk about the tight ends in a minute, to maybe a Zach Davidson making a run at this roster. Because, listen, year in and year out, Dawson Knox is a great player, but he misses a lot of games.
Yeah, it does open the door for Zach Davidson. Really nice day for him again. Really good day for Quentin Morris as well. So we can get into those depth tight ends here in a minute. But it's concerning. Dawson Knox getting, banged up again, dealing with a nagging issue like a groin injury, ankles too. I mean, tight ends are running routes. They're dependent on their ankles. They're dependent on that. It's something that can even linger or come back very easily. You hope that these are both minor issues and the Bills are just taking it easy with him to make sure he is ready by week 1, but it's certainly worth monitoring over these next few weeks.
We're out here at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Bills wrapped up a joint practice with the Steelers today. We're getting into all of the details on that. I want to spend some time on the tight ends because to me, this was the best practice for Quentin Morris of the entire summer. It was catches at all 3 levels. It was touchdowns. I think he led all players today with 3 touchdowns in the practice. He was really reliable. I felt like as a route runner, this was his best day. And it's been a really loud summer for Zach Davidson. But I think a day like this reminds you what Quentin Morris can do. We already know what he means to the team on special teams. But when he reminds you what he can do offensively at all 3 levels, he's going to be really hard for Davidson to leapfrog him. But again, we could probably talk ourselves into a 4 tight end situation.
You could, depending on the health of this roster going into week 1. But yeah, great practice for Quentin Morris. This is what you've wanted to see with Zach Davidson making the push this summer. How would Quentin Morris respond? He's made some nice grabs at training camp at St. John Fisher University, but it wasn't something where he was taking over practices or flashing as much maybe as Davidson. But today was, the Quentin Morris show, like you said, 3 touchdowns, getting open in all 3 phases. Doing that against other competition other than your own teammates, that's going to stand out when they go back and watch some of this film. That's going to stand out for the coaches that were obviously watching it live today as it unfolded. So really nice day for the depth tight ends.
Let me ask you this question, and I'll answer it for the offense, but you take it for the defense. Who would you say won the day? Like if you're kind of in your mind going through all the scoring plays, all the back and forth, overall totality, was it the Bills offense or the Bills defense or the Steelers offense that on that side of the field felt like the winner today?
It definitely felt like Pittsburgh's offense was the winner today, in my opinion. And that started early on where the Steelers converted on 5 of 7 attempts near the goal line. As practice went on, the Bills had a few more wins as it built up, but it definitely felt like a Steelers offensive victory today. Justin Fields, his ability to run and scramble, he showed that off a few times where he had big gains, touchdown runs, in the goal line work, fake handoff, and just kind of rolled in the end zone with ease. The Bills' run defense let up 2 big runs early on in the 11-on-11. So right now, and I'll go back through my notes again, definitely felt like Pittsburgh's offense won the day versus Buffalo's defense.
For me, it's the same story on the other side. I mean, it was the offense that was scoring quite a bit of points, very few mistakes. I mean, drop passes even were at a really low count. I don't think off the top of my head I could think of a specific drop pass from the teamwork. The one big mistake that Josh Allen made today, interception. I can't remember the defensive back or linebacker who made it, but I'll give you one guess who he was targeting.
MVS.
MVS is the right answer, Ryan Talbot, and you were nowhere near that side of the field. And listen, I hate to keep banging this drum on MVS and his kind of inability to work back to a play. Like it was probably a bad throw. I didn't see it from all angles, but you got to make an effort. It's almost like he stops on the play in a game. That's the kind of thing that if I'm Joe Brady or Josh Allen, I'm absolutely flipping my lid, because that's the kind of play that could be the difference in a game. Even if you work back to the play and find a way to get involved in it, maybe you stop it from going back 20, 30 yards and maybe stop a score, or maybe if they run it back for a touchdown, you stop that from happening. You got to be a little bit more competitive. At least that's my message if I'm Joe Brady to MVS.
Yeah, and if he makes this roster and something like that happens in game, I think he gets pulled and you don't see him again for the rest of that matchup. He needs to fight back for the ball. He needs to try to play defense on plays like that where the ball's at risk of being intercepted. And like you said, even if you can't make the play on the ball and knock it to the turf, you can at least tackle the player or try to disrupt the player from making that play. And that will go a long way in terms of when you watch the film back, hey, Josh, this isn't a ball you should have thrown, but luckily MVS fought for you and, limited the disaster on the play. But if he just sits back and watches, one, he might not make this roster. And two, if he does, he won't see a lot of reps on the field if it happens in a real game.
300 watching live on YouTube right now. Thank you so much. Over 1,000 across every platform. We really appreciate that. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as well. We really appreciate it. I got to get into the offensive line here. Some of those one-on-ones. I'll bring my notebook out for this. There were some good one-on-ones. And by the way, sorry if we're not able to really look at the comments during these kind of like field shows. So we apologize for that. But if you are an insider, give us a text. If we missed your comment, we'll answer questions there for the next couple of hours. I want to start with one guy that I think if you took the offensive line as a whole, the starting offensive line, the guy that throughout the summer I would say has been the biggest concern is Spencer Brown. For me, you could have a different answer for that. Today was, I think, something that could be the tide turning for Spencer Brown. He was dominant today, Ryan. I don't want to be hyperbolic. I never like to do that. But he was so dominant in so many different settings. He knocked 2 different Steelers on their ass today. And I'm telling you, like in a setting like this, when you can get a bully kind of style player to come out here and play like that, that is a big development. One was on a running play that, I thought Ray Davis had a good game. We could come back to him today. We come back to him. Puts a guy on his butt. Ray Davis runs through the block. Nice run. Later in one-on-ones, absolutely stymies a pass rusher, number 49. I'd have to look up his name. Punches him to the ground and then big brothers him, puts his hand down like to lift him up. Like, dude, that's like the most embarrassing ever. The guy didn't want any part of that.
And, when you think of physical football, one of the first teams you think of is the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is their brand of football. So for Spencer Brown to come in here and establish his physicality, to have those wins, to dominate, that is very encouraging because of some up and down plays this summer. A lot of the times when the Bills have given up sacks, it felt like Spencer Brown was the responsible party. So good to see him, as we're inching closer to the regular season, Brown elevate his play.
Another left tackle that can play both spots, Ryan Vandermark. Really nice rep in one-on-ones today. I thought he was really good. If it wasn't for Brown, I thought that Osiris Torrance could have had the argument for the best day today. I thought Josh Allen had a ton of time during team drills. O'Cyrus Torrence had a great rep. I think this is what you want to see. You want to see your offensive line rounding into form as you're getting close to the regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very encouraging sign for the offensive line, who, they left a lot out there for fans to desire in that first preseason game. Again, they don't game plan. The run, they only had 3 or 4 run plays installed. So keep going. So, okay. So when that I don't know what we're doing here right now. I'm sorry. I was framed beautifully, and then he has me moving on.
I like having a little fun with Talbot every once in a while. You're a little bit closer. I wanted to just check and make sure that we still had 4 bars. I don't want a bad user experience. So I kind of sometimes got to poke back here, check it all out. We're good. So
we're good. So, after that first preseason game where the offensive line, it felt like they were dominated. You look at the lack of game planning. You look at the fact that they only installed 3 or 4 run plays. The Bears were running stunts and different things. Now you see them in a setting like this, and they held their own against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Ray Davis has some nice runs. Spencer Brown performs well. O'Cyrus Torrence performs well. That is what you're hoping to see in the regular season. And, it's not like they came out here, game planning for a joint practice, but they were definitely doing some more things that you'll actually see in live games than what they did in that first preseason game. So for anyone that was concerned about the offensive line after the first preseason game, definitely some encouragement today.
What else we got to go? You want to do some quick hitters before we get out of here? Just some random one-off observations. Yeah. I'll start with one. Andy Isabella continues to play pretty well. I mentioned Ray Davis, too, as a guy that stood out. I feel like Ray Davis is poised to make things interesting for Joe Brady and Sean McDermott, because Ty Johnson came out here today and looked like Ty Johnson. And you know already what he's going to give you in that running back room. But I think we've seen so much from Ray Davis and continue to every single day. I don't know how you keep him off the field. No,
it's going to be very difficult. And he's earned those reps based on what he's done when Ty Johnson was out. So it's a good problem to have, Matt. We're talking about these areas where the Bills are all banged up, and what are they going to do? Well, they have 3 really good running backs that they can count on that heading into the season right now, knock on wood, any Bills fans watching, can stay healthy here approaching week 1. So it's great to see that. For me, I'm going to talk about a few defensive players here. Kyrie Elam, I thought had a really nice day today. Won a few of his one-on-one reps, made a pass breakup in 11-on-11. Deion Jones up and down day. He had an diving interception on a ball that bounced off of George Pickens' hands. But in one-on-ones, he was maybe their worst defender, clearly beaten by both of the Steelers' backs. So he pretty much grabbed and tackled them, which led to clear, easy flags to be thrown on plays like that. So really struggled in the one-on-ones, made a play, though, when it counted in the 11-on-11s.
Ejiofor Ulofoshio was back out there today without a red non-contact jersey, which is a huge development. The only problem was Balin Spector, he wasn't out there. And that's something that if he doesn't play in this game, and maybe they're just taking whatever this injury is super seriously because of what's going on with Matt Milano, and Spector's flashed so much throughout the summer that you want to have him as a guy that's available to play. If Dorian Williams doesn't do well, Nick Morrow has basically not played all summer. Deion Jones has been kind of an up and down situation. You're looking at, if Dorian Williams can't go, maybe Balin Spector's the guy that you got to turn to.
Yeah, and Spector, to his credit, has played well when he's been on the field. You just have to hope that he is healthy by the start of the season. Calf injuries. I feel like he's had a calf injury before. I have to go back and look at that in previous years, but you need to count on him to step up too, because this depth took a significant blow today, obviously, with the news of Matt Milano.
Such a great start to our 3-day stint in Pittsburgh. We're going to be right back in the stadium Saturday night, trying to get to the regular season, Ryan. I'm rushing things a little bit. August 31st, we're going to be back at Wingnuts, 1402 Millersport Highway. Make sure you save that date. Come out for the live show. That's going to be really ramping things up for the regular season.
Cannot wait. Join us at Wingnuts, Bills Mafia. We'll talk about the final roster. We'll talk about week 1. Don't miss it.
All right, Ryan Talbot, I'm Matt Parrino. See you Saturday. Enjoy the rest of this week. Take care, everybody.